Brad from Racetech Performance, and we're here with my new R34 GTR. We went to Bathurst in 23. It was the first trip for the red car. It was an exciting car up there. The little smack we had on the wall at Bathurst, generally anything like that's caused by lack of talent. It's one of those scenarios, you miss it by an inch and you missed it by a mile. The tyres were pretty tight on the car, it turns the tyres pretty hard. It's one thing that car didn't do well, and that's look after the tyre, predominantly because it's a stock road car with a little bit of engine. We got the wall and it wasn't a big hit, but it was enough to temporarily park us there for a while, yeah. We weren't in a position where we actually got to properly send that car on a decent tyre, being that they had a 209 time limit. That car's in the museum. It's the shiniest it's ever been. I'm pretty sure they polish it 3 times a day. And according to the guys in the museum, believe it or not, it's one of their biggest attractions. And normally the cars only ever stay there for 3 months. And at this point in time, I don't think they're going to let me have it back. 34s have sort of always had a soft spot for them. There's no road car in this car. Other than the tail lights, you'll be struggle to find a factory Nissan part in this car. I've done some limited work in Time Attack in the last 3 or 4 years. Most of my time was spent in open class. I was involved with Murray Coote from MCA, who's actually here this weekend. Probably be best known for being involved with Michelle Guy's Extreme GTR. Aerodynamically, it was important to make this car actually work, thanks to my mate Greg from Sydney Composites. We've certainly harnessed something proper there. I do quite a bit of work with Herm's. Herm's been unbelievable with making and designing parts for myself. A lot of parts I'm quite demanding in what exactly I want, how it's going to fit, how it's going to work, but also mindful that then those parts can then make their way into what I'd call general population. This is a 2.8 litre. This engine's actually a Neo cylinder headed engine, which is what I prefer to use because of the combustion chamber, and it already has inlet variable valve timing. We've got our own shimless package for these engines. We can reliably run them at 9500. They'll do well over a season before you even think about looking at the engine. It runs Herm's ADI 1500, which I was involved with developing because we had dramas with these engines over 1000 horsepower. They would pull the balancer O-rings out of them after 2 or 3 races. We run over a full season now. That PRP balancer in conjunction with ATI has fixed any issues we had with the harmonics in the engine at this sort of power level and RPM. This sump was actually designed custom for this car. It's running the integrated pump, Herman's all pump delete, Herman's alternator kit, the 36-2 trigger, which we developed with Herman, which we run on all our cars, whether it be any of the World Time Attack cars, any of the circuit cars, all of them run a 36-2. Any proper race car would not have missed running a 36-2 trigger. Certainly the testing that I've been involved with PRP on the new engine has been really, really promising. The new R1 head, once we test that, I can see myself coming away from something that I know really well in the way of an engine package and going down the R1 scenario. If we can make an engine that's obviously, put a cylinder head on that's more efficient. It's a Hollander MXT transmission, which is actually a transaxle in the back of this car. The old vehicle ran a Hollander mounted to the back of the motor. We still need some level of cut to get it out of the gear and into the next gear. So the lower the boost pressure we're running means the lower exhaust back pressure, which means the exhaust valves love life a lot longer, you know. Everything's happier if you can pull 100 out of it. We've run these motors at over 1000 C for 1 lap, and to be honest with you, yes, you can get it done, but your ass is that tight you couldn't fit a bus ticket in it. Like, you send it out there and often you'll tell the customer this is not coming back.
He's up at sector 1, he's up at sector 2. Are we going to the 25s in open? Tipping Slade Extreme GTR 25, 9, 2, 6. Is she done? That thing done. She done, RV done good. RV done good.
It did its job.
RV done good.
Since the Bathurst episode, we've all been clamped back, and I'm sure I'm not the most popular in the world with the amount of horsepower we can run per kilogram of weight. The other car wouldn't run under 1000. Unless you had a note from your mum, you just wouldn't drive a car under 1000 horsepower. And it spent its whole life at that point. The other thing is there's an 8,500 RPM limit now. That was never an issue before, unless it was a national class. We used to belt the engine to 10,000. Like, these things, life starts at 10,000. Pulling 1500 out of the engine certainly hurts. These things have got a decent lump of precision turbocharger on them. This car runs a next-gen 6875. It is reasonably responsive with percentage of throttle open. Losing the last 1500 means that instead of having power from 4800 to 10,000, it means we've got drivability from the same 4800 to 8.5. So we're basically back to a 4,000 RPM power band. We're clamped now with a 35-pound boost limit, which this car makes the required number well under those numbers. To be honest, to make the 900, 850, 900 horsepower that this car can run at, the engine's doing it with one hand up its arse. We won't have to drive the turbocharger anywhere near as hard if the cylinder head's more efficient, and that's the key. If you run any turbocharger at 100%, the amount of heat that's generated on both ends of it, the intercooler, the amount of work the intercooler's got to do, the amount of heat it generates in the exhaust, if you can bring that back by 10%, 20%, everything lasts longer. Certainly with our circuit applications, keeping the engine temperatures, oil temp, water temp and intake charge temp is really difficult. We try to put with the aero cars the minimal amount of air through the car because effectively it's not doing any aerodynamic work. So the coolers need to be efficient, and it's a real balancing act, getting enough airflow through the engine to keep it cool. We use Plasmaman's intercoolers. The cooling is a really big part of any package. This car runs around 78 degrees water temperature. Intercooler temps are magic on this car. It runs the same intercooler as the red car ran at Bathurst, which are in a lot of my customer cars, including Extreme GTR. That cooler, in my opinion, by far, hands down, beats everything in the market for this sort of horsepower application up to 15, 16, 1700. Rod Stubbs from Race Radiators has always done my rads. He uses an American-based core. So I've never seen anything as efficient in a radiator. It's a balancing act with the ducting. There's been a little bit of development work here with the ducting to get enough airflow through the cooling system and have it exit the bonnet, which with any aero car, any air's entering the engine bay that's not going out through the bonnet, it's a massive diminishing effect when it comes to downforce. Everything on the car's dry carbon, doors, every body panel. The only factory part on this car is the plastic original R34 bumper. It's carbon roof. There's no steel bodywork in this car at all. The suspension in this car is very unique. It's a double A-arm car. It's got proper motorsport CNC 7000 uprights. It's actually a package that Racetech are going to now bring to the general public. Now we're happy that it's a tested scenario. We'll be able to sell a lightweight chassis configuration that eliminates any flex. The camber gains have been mapped, roll centers are rectified. It could be run in a two-wheel drive or four-wheel drive format. You're going to see Extreme GTR come out and I think demolish the field next year with running the same package exactly as this car runs. A big thing with any race car from the driver's perspective, and until you've driven a car that's relatively stiff, you expect the suspension to do the work, not the car. Now this particular car, being that the cage is so stiff, it's a proper tower-to-tower cage. Any amount of spring or shock absorber you feed it, you actually get back in the seat of your pants and the steering wheel. It's taken quite a bit to develop the damper to the point where I'm actually happy with it. And to be honest now, it just needs a little bit of seat time, a set of tyres, and for someone to point at which way the track went and what's the lap record, and it's on. We've got the lap records at both tracks here. The Symmons Plains lap record is not an easy record to take regardless of how good the car is without a decent amount of engine. The red car's got the lap record there at a 50.5. The national category requires a Henkel. In our free state classes we can run any tyre, any slip we wish. Yesterday we ran the car on two different tyres, so there was a fair bit to work through. Murray from MCA's come down to revalve the dampers at the track, which makes a huge difference. Be able to come away from the track with the car doing exactly what you want. There is just no compromise. Baskerville is one of these places that some people call it a goat track. I personally think I've run it quite a few circuits. It's a great circuit. It's very bumpy now. It's very tight, it's very twisty. This car's got a reasonable amount of straight line handling. When I broke the lap record here, I ran at 1180. To be honest with you, this is a tight little track, and I don't think it helped at all, but it certainly gave the front wheel some time in the air, and that's about all. If you can make the car work at both of these tracks, you've got a race car. You can go anywhere in Australia and know that you can make that car work without any drama, without any doubt. To take that outright tin top record off the red car, certainly from testing yesterday, it's a long way up. This car's even with limited horsepower. The aero makes this car like driving something to church on Sunday. It's a beautiful thing compared to the other thing. That other car is trying to kill you from when you leave the pits to when you come back. It's a wild ride around there. This particular car, what can it achieve? 80% of the speed comes from the bit between the seat and the steering wheel. I'm probably not the best guy to be doing that job because you're just not in the car enough of the time. Really, to see something like this shine, you'd be mad not to put somebody in it. Tim Slade's pushing pretty hard to put his backside in it, which would be awesome to see him run the car on a national level. This car was built to break records and to break hearts. Whether it's my heart, I'm not sure yet, but it's going to break something.